Balester. On the eve of Noche UFC 2 or Riyadh season Noche UFC 306, whatever you want to call it. I thought that this weekend, given the bigness of this card and how much the UFC has poured into this card, plus the fact that we have a Bellator in London tomorrow, I thought everything was going to be focused on that. But silly me, how naive I am that something major doesn't drop in the middle of this weekend. And of course, it does involve one notorious Conor McGregor. Well, not really. It involves more of UFC CEO Dana White. For those of you who have missed it, about 20 or so minutes ago, Anthony and I were part of Football Forecast Week 2. That's going to be dropping tomorrow at noon. We had just finished recording. And a minute before we had finished recording, a tweet goes out from Spinning Backfist, the Barstool Sports MMA focused account. And basically what it seems to be is that according to UFC CEO Dana White, he's in the middle of an interview with Robbie Fox of Barstool, Chandler is ready for a fight. And he basically, according to Dana White, Michael Chandler is no longer going to be Conor McGregor's next opponent. That was, again, to Barstool. Now, there's no indication that McGregor versus Chandler will never happen, but apparently, according to the words of Dana White, Michael Chandler is, after all this time, that Chandler was patient, was ready to wait. He is done waiting. He wants a fight, and basically, he's not going to be Conor McGregor's next opponent. And Conor McGregor's next fight in the UFC once again is up in the air. So, Anthony, do you want to give any initial thoughts, or would you rather for the benefit of those who did not get the chance to see it, play the footage?
You can play the footage first so everybody knows what's going on.
Okay, so we're going to play the footage first, coming again from Spinning Backfist on X. Let me see. Well, first let me get that punctuation out of there so I get it right. And then let me see if I can share this tab. Here's it. Share screen. Select window or screen. No, that's not it. Maybe it is. No. All right, bear with us, everybody. We have a little bit of technical difficulty. So, Anthony, until I get this fixed, I guess your thoughts on what's going on here.
Yeah, of course. I don't mind going. Honestly, it's confusion, Tom. This makes really no sense. Honestly, this whole Conor McGregor thing never makes sense from the beginning. We keep thinking we're going to get this fight, and then we're told we're not going to get the fight, and then we are going to get the fight. So I don't know what's going to happen. It seemed like we were really, really leaning towards this fight being rescheduled, possibly in December for UFC 310. I really thought that was going to be my prediction, and we're finally going to see this fight. It'd be perfect timing. Michael Chandler could get ready to start getting into fighting shape and, start getting ready to start his training camp soon. But if this fight's not happening, then, Michael Chandler doesn't have a fight scheduled. What this shows me is that maybe Conor McGregor is not ready to fight, at the end of the year. If Conor McGregor was ready to fight in December or January, I think Chandler would wait. But if that's not happening, then McGregor must have a longer timeline. And, I don't blame, Chandler for not wanting to wait any longer. He's got to fight. My question is, who is he going to fight? He's already fought some of the top guys already. I'm not sure if they want to rebook maybe him and Dan Hooker, but I'm not sure who would he fight. Obviously, McGregor, there's hundreds of options. He could fight Charles Oliveira. So there's a lot of guys out there for McGregor, and he's always going to have an opponent. But it's going to be interesting to see who Michael Chandler gets, and it's definitely interesting to see now that, it looks like McGregor may not be ready, at least for the end of this year, and who knows if McGregor's ever going to be ready to fight at this point.
So before we get into anything else, I managed to at least share my whole screen. Let's play the footage from Spinning Backfist from Barstool Sports. Actually, let me quickly change some things up here. I know things look a little awkward, but it looks like StreamYard kind of took out sharing of tabs, so trying to figure out how I can do this, and this is the best way I can see how. Here's basically the footage. It kind of just drops at random in the middle here And even Robbie Fox gets confused.
Where the fuck is Conor?
Well, Conor's been out too long. So once you're out,
Chandler's been out as long as him almost.
Well,
where's
almost.
Chandler? You know what I'm doing? Is Chandler still going to be his opponent?
The other thing,
If
no.
Conor beats Chandler, no.
So,
whoa, you just slid that in. No.
Because
Chandler had the 2024 ultimatum. Is that Chandler's choice?
No, Chandler said, "I'm done waiting. I want to fight."
For real?
Mm-hmm.
This is like huge breaking news.
Yeah, come out tomorrow.
Unbelievable! Yeah. Oh my god.
And the thing there, if you saw it, they just come out tomorrow. So there's potentially more here. Hold on. Apologies, everybody, having a little technical problem. Okay, we are back. Yeah. So apparently there is going to be more from Dana White tomorrow at I'm going to assume at the Noche UFC 2 post-fight press conference, where we'll hear a little bit more about what's going on with Conor or what's going on with Chandler, what the future, maybe Chandler has another fight now lined up. I guess the question, to counteract something that you were saying, Anthony, Conor has a lot of options. He doesn't have to fight Michael Chandler. He could fight, let's say, a Max Holloway. He threw that name out there, when it looked like Chandler was teasing maybe moving on from him in the first place earlier, a couple of months back. Charles Oliveira is an option. They could try to lure Nate Diaz back into the UFC for a fight. Jorge Masvidal has been teasing, to fight out his UFC contract originally before he retired. He still had 2 fights left on, and he wants to re-enter the UFC. They could run the Masvidal-McGregor fight. They could try, when Khabib, those reports of Khabib being in so much that there was that thought maybe they could try to lure Khabib for another fight and do Conor Khabib too that they had always wanted. My problem, Anthony, is that it seems like, obviously, for full context, for those who don't follow it, Conor McGregor is now also part owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. And it seems like every time that there's some event or something that he's involved with the press and he's involved with, the hyping up for the fight, we see Conor McGregor just having a grand old time and drinking away and stuff, acting like he's not in fight camp. So it's like it goes to the question that you said at the end. Is he ever going to be ready? Because the way we have seen Conor McGregor, ever since the cancellation of that Dublin press conference from June, I don't think we've ever seen Conor McGregor show any sort of sign that he's willing to get into the cage.
Yeah, and I really feel like, deep down he wants to fight. This is what he loves to do. Obviously, he did it to make a living. Obviously, he had a tough upbringing, and he needed to find a way to support his family. But at the end of the day, fighting's in his blood. Fighting's in his heart. And I do think that's what's kind of keeping him in this. I do think deep down he wants to fight. But it's like, the fight and to go through a training camp, you have to put your body through so much suffering and you have to sacrifice so much. And it's a lot harder to sacrifice when you're worth over $100 million than when you're only worth about $1,000. So, and that's really what's factoring in here. He's doing movies now. He's got a lot of options. He doesn't ever have to fight again. But the love for fighting is definitely keeping him in a minute. But right now it seems like, his lifestyle is outweighing the love for fighting. And I just think it's unfortunate because it's causing a back and forth between fight fans and Conor McGregor because he's either in or he's out. And he's not 100% either way. And I don't know if he's ever going to be, 100% back, willing to fight and willing to sacrifice, what he once was back in the day.
And Anthony, that goes to a classic Dana White quote, other than John Jones is the greatest fighter of all time. And that's, when those thoughts slip into your mind of, do I really want to dip my toes into this water again? Then really that's the time that it's time to get out. And, it's completely frustrating. Look, you're right. He doesn't ever have to fight again. He has made his living. He has made his impact on this sport. He has made so much money. He has reached a level of superstardom that the UFC can only yearn and wish for somebody like a Sean O'Malley or like a Tom Aspinall could reach. And I don't know if anybody will ever reach it, especially because the UFC wants their machine behind fighters. Because of the way that Conor was allowed a little off the chain, like I said last time that we had a breaking news about this, last time it was towards the end of Tough. towards the end of towards the end of August. Because it was the first week of Contender Series. I no longer want to hear anybody say, "Oh, the UFC could just make another Conor McGregor," or "Conor McGregor needs the UFC." Absolutely not. Hell no. The UFC needs Conor McGregor a lot more than Conor McGregor needs them. And the thing is, especially now that he has the is part of bare knuckle promotion. I mean, I remember when you and Brett were talking about it on Puncher's Chance a few weeks ago. It feels like at this point, at least in my mind, there's a better chance we see Conor McGregor in a bare knuckle boxing ring next than a UFC octagon.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't hate the idea as well. We were talking before on the podcast, and I mentioned, can you imagine seeing him versus Mike Perry in a bare knuckle fight? I think that would absolutely sell, and I would love to see it. But, if you're Conor McGregor, obviously a bare knuckle fight, you're going to take more damage than you would in a UFC fight. So for Conor McGregor, you think you'd want to be in a UFC fight more than a bare knuckle fight. Usually
Whoa. We got breaking. We have an update. This is a major breaking story. We have a very major update from UFC CEO Dana White. And apparently, apparently both those things, we were like, is Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler officially done for? And Michael Chandler, is his next opponent, is not longer that Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. Let me try it again. Michael Chandler is no longer Conor McGregor's next opponent. Both of those things apparently are true. Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler still could be in the cards, but breaking news, Anthony, I want your live reaction to this. Michael Chandler will return to the octagon at Madison Square Garden on November 16th against the man that you had mentioned could be a possible opponent for Conor McGregor, the former lightweight champion Charles do Bronx Oliveira. They're going with the rematch.
Okay, I like it.
So
I think that's an interesting matchup.
For those of you joining us, we now have a breaking news to the breaking news. Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler 2 to co-headline Madison's UFC 309 at Madison Square Garden on November 16th. Of course, the speculation at this point, not confirmed yet from Dana White or anybody at the UFC, is the main event will be Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight championship. I mean, my God, Anthony, just think about all the controversy with the heavyweight championship scene and all the controversy given with Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler, and we said there need to be plans in place for 310. They need something for 309, maybe another title fight or something, especially if Tom Aspinall has to get involved in the mix, if Jones or Stipe get hurt. Oh, man, did they answer it in a big way here? They answered it in a phenomenal way, booking this as the co-main event. But it is a risk for Chandler. If he loses to Charles Oliveira again, then what you said earlier, Anthony, could very well be true, and that Oliveira could be McGregor's next opponent. Although, Michael Chandler would be another loss for him, and Conor McGregor, I mean, he hasn't had a meaningful win in the octagon since 2016. So maybe that's still realistic even with a loss. But nevertheless, apparently Dana White's words are true. Michael Chandler is not Conor McGregor's next opponent. So, but that does not mean that Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler is officially off and done for. It could happen in 25, mid 25, late 25, early 26. But as of this point, Michael Chandler's next opponent in the octagon will be Charles do Bronx Oliveira.
Yeah, I'm absolutely stunned, Tom. I talked about Charles Oliveira a lot, but I talked about him fighting Conor McGregor. I never thought we'd see a part 2 of him and Michael Chandler. And this is very interesting, Tom, because I feel like if Chandler goes out there and he has a bad performance and, Charles Oliveira finishes him and submits him, I don't think that's really going to, warrant him to fight Conor McGregor. I think, that's going to, lose some steam off that fight. The fans I don't think are going to want to see it nearly as much. And I think Conor McGregor is going to want to fight a different opponent than Michael Chandler. Now, say if Michael Chandler goes out and gets the upset and shocks the world and beats Charles Oliveira, I mean, now we're talking about Michael Chandler being a potential title contender. And now that Michael Chandler and McGregor fight could be a potential title eliminator and a number one contenders match if he does go out there and beat Charles Oliveira. I'm very interested in, shocked that the UFC went this way. There was rumors that maybe, Charles Oliveira may go up against Dan Hooker because Dan Hooker's trending upwards and he's looking for a number one contenders match. So this is definitely very shocking. I think Michael Chandler has a lot to gain, but I think he also has a lot to lose in this. And I think that's a bad matchup stylistically, but it's definitely a matchup that I definitely would like to see again.
Absolutely. Sorry if I'm looking down right now. I'm trying to give an update on our social media page. Make sure to follow us, by the way, on our social media page at MMA Outsiders ETV on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. We post all these news updates to our X account. But I think the other thing here, Anthony, I will play some audio from Robbie with this because it's Robbie Fox again with this breaking update. But I think the other thing is now UFC 310, now that Chandler's fighting on this card, McGregor for sure now is not going to fight in 2024. That leaves a very wide opening for UFC 310 on December 7th. And that does throw out some potential options. And, as I kind of alluded to a couple weeks ago on MMA Outsiders, it looks like right now we are looking potentially for UFC 310. Bilal Muhammad defending the welterweight championship against Shavkat Rakhmonov. That would be my assumption at this point.
Yeah, 100%. You also may get Pantoja. He might be defending the flyweight belt as well. Obviously, if possible, if Islam Makhachev could possibly get healthy enough, maybe they could swing that. But I think they prefer to have Islam and Sarukian fight probably in January of next year. Right.
But if Sarukian is not willing to wait, you did mention Dan Hooker, and per his win over Gamrot back at UFC 305, if an interim title fight is needed for lightweights, then the answer to that is Sarukian versus Hooker.
Yeah, and the UFC not giving, Charles Oliveira to Dan Hooker. Obviously, the UFC has, different plans for Dan Hooker. Whether if that's giving Justin Gaethje or Dustin Poirier, or maybe it is giving them that interim belt against, Sarukian. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see, and this is definitely something no one predicted, and it definitely changed the outlook of what we thought, the lightweight division matchups were going to look like.
For sure. All right, I am finishing our social media post right now, so I'm actually going to play more audio from Robbie. So give me a second. I apologize for not having a.
All right, I just got off the phone with Dana White.
Okay, we are just having technical difficulties up the wazoo tonight, but that is just how quick the breaking news is breaking around here. So here is Robbie Fox from Barstool. The latest update.
All right, I just got off the phone with Dana White, and we got to issue a quick correction on the breaking news that Conor McGregor will not fight Michael Chandler in his UFC return. Dana said there was a little misunderstanding in our exchange. That fight still may happen, but Michael Chandler is taking a fight first. He's getting a fight first, and it will be against Charles Oliveira in a 5-round co-main event at MSG.
Oh, my God, wait a minute. I have to – oh, my God, 5 rounds? Oh, this gets better. Okay.
In the future, but Michael Chandler is taking that fight first. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with Conor. He's not going to be back till 2025. But yeah, that is the correction. He may still fight Michael Chandler in his UFC return, but Chandler's taking a fight first.
All right. So that's your update. So this is the latest. I'm not going to go to the first headline right now because I don't want people to get confused, but this is the latest that we have. Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler 2, co-main event, UFC 309, Madison Square Garden, November 16th, likely to be the co-feature bout to a John Jones heavyweight championship defense, whether it be against Stipe Miocic or unifying the belt against one Tom Aspinall. This is insanity. So that just brings us again to the question of Conor McGregor. And I will be very honest, Anthony. I want to thank Conor McGregor for everything that he has done with the sport. For, as much as he has made us in MMA media, us as fight fans, tear our hair out with all of this. Let's say the retirement teases, all these potential teases for all these different fights. Staying away from the octagon for 2 years to pursue that Floyd Money Mayweather boxing matchup. Obviously Khabib and setting the record, actually setting it multiple times for highest grossing UFC pay-per-view. I want to thank McGregor for that, but I will be very honest. I just simply do not care now if he comes back to the octagon. I really think that, Tough 31 was an absolute waste. I think at this point, there's just, and especially if Chandler loses, there's just no point to Conor McGregor coming back anymore. I know he still has 2 fights left on his contract, and he doesn't want to be held down in the way that we kind of see with Jorge Masvidal, how the UFC basically has to approve everything that he does. Maybe the ownership and bare knuckle could kind of counteract some of that. Like if you want to do a Conor McGregor, Mike Perry bare knuckle fight, but being very brutally honest, Anthony, Michael Chandler and the UFC and Dana White may not be done with Conor McGregor, but I am. I'm done.
Yeah, I absolutely don't blame you. And the more and more I think about it, Tom. Obviously, if he loses, Michael Chandler loses. It's definitely going to be tough and maybe make McGregor not want to take that fight and maybe want to fight somebody else. But now that I think about it, on the flip side, if Michael Chandler wins, why would Michael Chandler want to fight Conor McGregor? Beating Charles Oliveira right now at this point gets you closer to a title fight than it does beating Conor McGregor. So if you beat Charles Oliveira, we just seen with Sarukian, by beating Charles Oliveira, he's talking about a title shot. So if Chandler goes out there and wins, he should be fighting Islam next.
Right, Anthony. I'll take it one step further. I think if Michael Chandler wins this fight as a means of making up for all the BS with Conor. All right, I think I got you now. I think my end was a little frozen. I think with all the BS that has happened with, Conor McGregor, kind of as a means to make up for it. If Chandler gets his revenge on Oliveira, I know the trilogy fight would be there, but I think you would have to give him the winner of Sarukian versus Islam.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think that's what you would have to do at this point. And I know everyone's going to say, well, for Michael Chandler, it's what could have been. And in some ways, yeah. But at the same time, I mean, let's say he didn't pursue this fight past 2023. Then people would be criticizing him for, the money was there and you didn't take it and such. So Michael Chandler has just been in a lose-lose situation, which has made me feel pretty bad for him.
Yeah, and my one question for you, Tom, I know they probably haven't announced it yet, but when they were saying Michael Chandler was going to fight McGregor, they were saying they were going to fight at 170. Now, I know Charles Oliveira has once talked about fighting at 170. So if Michael Chandler this whole time has been planning to fight at 170, is this fight going to be truly at 155, which I probably would assume it probably would be, or are they going to go 170 since Chandler was preparing for a fight at 170?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
No, what I was saying was Michael Chandler this whole time has been preparing for a fight with McGregor at 170. Now, I know Charles Oliveira has also talked about fighting at 170. Now, I'm going to assume that this fight's going to be at 155. But it wouldn't surprise me if this fight is going to be at 170 since that's what Michael Chandler, was, deciding and was training for. So it's going to be interesting to see, is this fight at 155 or 170?
I'm gonna assume 155. I know what you're referring to, that when Conor dropped that New Year's Eve video, he did tease 170. But it seemed like when the fight was first official with Chandler, which I'm going to consider the UFC 300 post-fight press conference, that it was going to be done at 155. So unless somebody says otherwise, unless Dana White says otherwise, I believe Conor McGregor's next fight, if such a thing would happen, whether or not I care, I would assume it's going to be at 155.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that is at this point the latest that we have. Oliveira Chandler 2 to co-headline UFC 309. McGregor Chandler off again for now with this fight in the books. So Dana White's words last month at the first Contender Series press conference is true. Conor McGregor will not fight in 2024. Now we are looking at a potential return 2025, which would bring us 4 years since we saw him last at UFC 264. We are basically entering George St. Pierre hiatus territory.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever coming back. And at this point, if you're not, fed up and over McGregor, you got to be fed up and over with McGregor versus Chandler.
Yeah, I'm fed up and done. No other way to put it. I am just fed up and done. UFC 309 definitely looks like it could be a treat, though. Whether or not you think John Jones should fight Stipe or Tom Aspinall, I think that co-headliner kind of sweetens the deal a little bit.
100%. I can't wait. And I'm also excited for UFC 306 tomorrow as well.
For sure. Enjoy the fights, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us with the insanity. That's Anthony Balester. I'm Tom Albano. We'll catch you next time. Enjoy the fights.
See ya.